maybe there's some reason why there's a justifiable reason, and we won't know until it gets unredacted, but maybe there's a reason for it. Like during the Nixon administration, everyone could see plain as day. Nixon was very uncomfortable on screen. He was lying about something, and they used it against him. But the media didn't know that he was actually the information he was sitting on was nothing he did wrong, but
Mm,
all of the heads of every military
mm,
branch, every intelligence operation, the entire country would have gone down if he would have told people what he knew at the time. And now they release the information now because all those guys are dead and it doesn't matter, you know? Think there's a whole story. I think I want to say it was New York Times released it, but it's a scathing like revelation of what actually happened during that administration. And it's tragic that that's kind of what they're doing to Trump now. But essentially, he did
I know.
nothing that every single other politician wasn't doing. Literally
Well,
every other politician.
dude, I've gone
And
down a wormhole and all this stuff, boy.
oh, geez, yeah. But my point, I don't want to go too far down that. But like,
No, you can
it's
go as far
commendable
and
now that you know the whole story that he was willing to fall on his sword, right?
just for the record, you could go as far down. I'm not. No, I like the dive. This is because, dude, I went down this Nixon rabbit hole, and you're so on it because it seems like two things are going on here. He was framed, and he did it.
Yes,
So,
yes and no.
so it's so weird. It's like, okay, so he didn't do the things going on,
Yep.
but because he was in a leadership position, he was still of the day. He was like, it's my fault. It's my fault.
In his trial, he says something to the effect of, "Sir, I am not able to answer that question." Like you can see the fire in his eyes, like the audacity that the person asking him the question knows what's in those files that he's not allowed to talk about. They know that there is a sealed order that no one under any circumstance is allowed to open this folder until such and such a date, right?
Mm.
And the person asking the questions knew. So they set him up just like they do, you know. If you have anything that they can use against you, they will, even if it means putting themselves at risk, because the person asking the questions was just as much as risk as everyone else, but they knew that his hands were tied and he was ultimately going to do the honorable thing. And I think that's
Hmm.
such a dirty, dirty, underhanded move, man. And not
It
only
is.
that, but
It
think about,
absolutely is.
but pop culture defamated him for the rest of time. Every movie, TV
They
show,
still do. They
everything makes
still
him a
do.
bad
And
guy, right?
nobody actually
My
looks into it. Hmm.
video game handle forever was Nixon because I was taught that he was America's greatest villain. And I come to find out he's the only reason we still exist. We literally
Somewhat.
would have fallen
There
to
was
complete disarray.
there was definitely some other mistakes made, but I actually
But
label him the last father of our country.
yeah,
Because if
yeah.
you see, at least I've taken back. I watched the videos. This dude really cares about America in a
And
way that
Americans in a way that people haven't
you
since.
don't see it anymore. You and I kind of coined him that he was the last father of America because he's the last motherfucker I could think of. It was genuinely disturbed him when like America wasn't doing well or the Americans weren't going to do better, and you don't see that shit anymore, man.
Well, if you can really draw a lot of parallels to right now too, because he was dealing with a lot of the same situations. You know, he's wars that had nothing to do with him, you know, culture wars that had nothing to do with him that started before he got into office from things that didn't make sense. Just like the culture wars now don't make sense because they're not organic. They didn't happen because people wanted it. It happened because people were pushing an agenda to make it happen. Like, geez, man, it's all so shady when you really go down to because like all of the musicians of the time have ties to the government. Like I mean like everyone, Frank Zappa, like all the people that I used to admire hugely are it's all one big convoluted psyop. Like they went
What do you
out of
mean
their
it?
way. What's that?
What do you mean by it? It's all one side. What does that mean?
All of the culture that erupted out of the hippie movement was all orchestrated by the CIA and others.
Yeah, there's others. There's definitely others.
Well, yeah, and the others goes so far beyond what you could possibly imagine because like everyone has ties to, and it still happens to this day. Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello's mother's
You see that?
big wig in the Democratic Party.
Says all the brains in the world are powerless against the sort of stupidity that is in fashion. I started thinking about that with your hippie movement you were talking about.
But
I'm
it's
like,
so true.
yeah.
But like when you see it from a bird's eye perspective, that exact same thing was happening all over the globe. I mean, it happened in Iran, it happened in Iraq, it happened in all over the.
Well,
It even took over England in the same way.
yeah, I think the good drugs were getting out.
That's how they did it though, and that's how they were doing it in Minnesota too. It's so easy to dose a population with LSD, and you laugh, but it is tragically easy to make. It is tragically easy to put it into water bottles and distribute it and give it to people, and there's no way to really test for it. And
Is
when
Spinal Tap, right?
how many people you know are going to voluntarily get a spinal tap to
Well, they
see if
might
they
make
may or
you.
may not have been microdosed?
Well,
Because
it's like,
we're talking about such minute, immediate, it makes
well,
you
they
so
have to just put the
susceptible.
gate up. They have to put the gate up. Oh, you want that job?
Oh, there's
Oh, I
that.
think you did LSD. Oh, well, then you need to go do that.
But okay, so
I
basically,
think that's for life. Isn't that for life?
yeah, but how do you prove when it got there? That's the thing.
No, it's a good
Like,
question.
were you dosed at this riot, or did you just go to a Grateful Dead show when you were a kid? You know what I mean? Who knows?
Right, right.
But that's how it started in San Francisco. They dropped off the same way they're dropping off signs and stuff at these protests now.
And
They were dropping off boatloads of LSD.
agent provocateurs.
And there's other chemical cousins of LSD too that can make you think the way that they want you to think. But MKUltra is very real. It very much
Mhm.
happened, and it's very much still alive in
I'm
different
about to say we're
iterations
gonna
today.
pretend it ended.
Exactly. But to pretend like that ended is to like pretend like the science from the Nazi Party ended just because the war was over. You know, they
A little
just
bit.
dispersed around the globe, right? And kept on
Same thing
chugging
with they
away.
say the same thing with the Tuskegee stuff. Remember?
Yeah.
Did it end? I'm not sure. They said it did, but
They're
right.
able to revise history because that's what people are going to remember, right? Just
His
like
story, right?
control the story, you control the history, right? So
Yeah.
I am really so curious to see how this generation ends up getting recorded, you know, because I feel like there are people now that feel like they have part of the story. And I've been in some X chats with people who are in intelligence and stuff like that. Their perspective on what's going on is drastically different than what the
The layman's perspective.
but I feel like we're starting to rebuild with well, I feel like X is where we started to rebuild. We're
It's a
actually
big
able
one.
to. It's
It's a
wild
big
though,
one.
isn't it? And it hurts sometimes when you see people putting out the misinformation because it's hard to bury the misinformation on X too. But I would
Mm-mm.
rather the misinformation exist and people have no there should not be any throttle on the actual truth, right? Like if truth's
Well, that
uncomfortable,
becomes a the problem is that becomes a subjective thing to a lot of people.
always. But if you don't have all the information, how do you make an objective opinion, right? Like if you only have
Well,
one side,
this is a layered thing actually, because like I do say too, confusion is the weapon of the day. And how do you
also true.
confuse somebody who has good information? You throw a bunch of different information at them, and then it'll confuse them as to which one might be the right thing.
There's also something to be said about understanding how each camp is. Okay, so if everyone's trying to psyop you, know their game, know how they're playing, and then you can kind of read through the lines a little bit, right? Conservative persuasion tends to lean towards more traditional avenues, like they're politicking. No one's going to deny that, but they're doing it the way that we've politicked for 2,000 years, you know, versus the left right now
Oh,
is using full-blown psyops campaign. Like most of the approaches that they're dealing with in the last 2 years have been straight out of the CIA handbook. It's
yeah,
not
they
like
very
they're
much don't even hide it anymore. I do know that.
not at all. And it's tragic, but the amount of people that fall for that is
Yeah,
terrifying.
well, what I said society, something so important, people feel lucky if they're able to pay attention to it.
Yeah, well, there's that. Well,
That's how
but
important it is. That's how important it is, apparently.
But when you've got every industry kind of working in lockstep against you, it's kind of hard to break free of it, right? Like they've got the pharmaceutical industry pumping SSRIs into people to the point where they've got such emotional blunting that they're easily led, right? Then all of a sudden, they're easily led to, say, a riot where you can very easily start supplying them with free food and drink that may or may not be dosed with something. All it takes is one rock at a riot to suddenly you're tearing down buildings and spray painting stuff and hurting people and attacking random bystanders. But it's not organized, but it is organized. You know what I mean? Like there are so
um,
many people actively trying to work against the American people that we're basically just a powder keg, and all it takes is that one idiot that falls for all of it that just suddenly becomes way more militant than need be, and that works on both sides of the aisle too. I'm not saying that the conservatives are
no.
immune to that.